All right, I see a healthy group of people joining us today, and I want to make sure that we get started on time because we have a full agenda today packed with really good information, tidbits, and resources to really have you walk away learning a little bit about your health is more than physical. So next slide is, as we get started today, I want to recognize that my name is Zamina Dadani. I'm calling you from the Canadian Mental Health Association, BC Division. I am a very, very proud immigrant from Nairobi, Kenya, moved to Canada, which is known as Turtle Island, almost a decade ago, and I have the privilege and the honor to be working in the mental health space and to be joining you with my panelist here, which I'm very excited to introduce you to. We have Dr. Noor Ramji, who's a family physician in Toronto, Ontario, providing primary care in an urban academic family health team. She additionally serves on the Aga Khan Health Board of Canada on the Health Navigation Service team, providing healthcare navigation support to community members. So glad to have you here. Ramzia Ashraf is a certified health executive with a master in nursing and health systems leadership and administration. With almost 2 decades of Canadian and international experience in frontline nursing and management in healthcare and nonprofit organizations. She's the current clinical practice team lead for the Future Ready initiative and the former newcomer health member for the Aga Khan Board of Canada. And then last but not least, we have my colleague, Elisa Perez, is a nonprofit leader with over 15 years of experience working in the nonprofit and healthcare sectors. Elisa is currently the Director of Early Intervention Programs here at CMHA BC, and previous to her current role was the national member of CMHA Bounce Back program, which she's going to tell you a little bit about, and she holds a Master's in Science in Kinesiology and an MBA. So just welcome the panelists today. We're very excited to get started. I want to tell you a little bit about who's on the call. We have a great collaboration between 2 very important initiatives. Elisa is going to give you a little bit about CMHA, and then I'll pass it over to Ramzi to say a little bit about the Future Ready initiative. Over to you, Elisa.
Great. Thank you, Zamina, for the introduction, and I'm really happy to be here today. So the Canadian Mental Health Association, we are a national charity. We've been around for over 100 years now, and we provide advocacy and resources working towards a vision of Canada where everyone can realize their human right to their best possible mental health. We operate in over 100 communities to meet local needs. Some of the work we do is providing mental health skills and resilience programs, delivering training and education, connecting individuals and organizations to resources, and advocating for mental health priorities for all Canadians. Our services and supports aim to prevent mental health problems, support recovery and resilience, and enable everyone to flourish and thrive. And we also have a history and of systems level advocacy really focused on policing the broader justice system and mental health. Some of the things we're going to highlight today, but just it's important to reiterate as a mental health organization that everyone has mental health. Not everyone has mental illness. A BC stat we have is mental illness will affect 1 in 5 people in any given year. So that's almost 900,000 British Columbians. And across Canada, by age 40, 1 in 2 Canadians will have or have had a mental illness. So it's something that affects all of us. Research continues to show that most people with mental illness are not violent, and most people who are violent do not have a mental illness. In fact, most people diagnosed with a mental illness are significantly more likely to be the victims rather than the perpetrators of violence.
Thanks, Lisa. So over to Ramzi to tell us a little bit about the Future Ready initiative.
Thank you very much, Zamina. Future Ready initiative is a post-pandemic service delivery initiative of the Aga Khan Council for Canada. It's just a little bit over 2 years old, 2.5 years old now. Its primary goal is to ensure that every member of the community or Jamaat who desires it has access to comprehensive and quality programs and services. FRI focuses on various areas, including family mentorship and social services, settlement support for newcomers, youth mentorship, career development and livelihood, and mental health and wellness. One of the top priorities of the program is to provide community with access to mental health awareness programs, resiliency building, and professional mental health services. Back to you, Zamina.
We are beyond excited to talk about this collaboration where the Future Ready Initiative collaborating with CMHA to really bring forward this presentation to walk you through a few of very important things for yourself, your family members, and your community. So today's agenda, we'll be talking about the significance of physical health. We'll then talk about the importance of mental health, the value of community connections, and we'll summarize everything and leave you with a little bit of resources so you can share with your friends and your family and your community. Throughout the presentation, feel free to use the chat box to ask any question. We'll have a few moderated sessions where I'll be asking questions to our panelists, but feel free to add questions at the very end. I will address them. So starting us off, we're going to move over to Noor, who will be talking about the significance of physical health.
Thank you so much, Samina. And Natalie, I'll get you to forward the slides. So it's really important when we're talking about health that we talk about both physical health and mental health. Both of these do contribute and actually work together to make us feel well and allow us to participate in our day-to-day activities. So I'm going to chat a little bit about physical health and how it impacts your mental health as well too. Next slide, please. It's important that when we do maintain our physical health, such as having good sleep or eating good foods, we know that this actually has a positive impact on our mental health as well. Next slide, please. But we also know that when our physical health is struggling, this can affect our mental health as well. Chronic conditions such as chronic pain, heart disease, concerns with sleep overnight, such as a condition known as sleep apnea, hormone changes, so during different times of our lives, such as adolescence or menopause, certainly concerns with your thyroid function can also mimic symptoms of mental health concerns, but also affect your mental health as well, and certain vitamin deficiencies as well. So it's important that you are in close contact with your primary care provider to make sure that any physical health concerns are optimized, because certainly that can have a huge impact on your mental health as well. Next slide, please. And this brings us to something called the well-being feedback loop. If you're having difficulty with sleeping, if you're noticing that you're having changes in appetite or don't have the energy to engage in activities that you usually enjoy, these could be signs that your body is telling you from a physical sense that there may be something concerning either physically or associated with your mental health as well. So it's important that you listen to your body and understand, and have perhaps people that you can speak to that can check in on you and say, hey, I don't know, I think you've been sharing that you haven't been sleeping really well. Maybe this is something we can talk about. Next slide, please. And this brings me to 3 strategies that are really important and maybe make up the foundation of how we can help both our physical health and our mental health. The first being eating well. Eating right is really important for good physical health, but it's equally important for good mental health. We know that having a plate of green leafy vegetables have a lot of iron that can be really helpful for your mental health. Additionally, lean meats and eggs have a good source of vitamin B12, which is really important for your mental health. And sticking to unprocessed foods have often helped with improving energy and maintaining mood throughout the day. Next slide. The second strategy is exercise. Sometimes easier said than done. 30 minutes, just 30 minutes, 3 to 5 times a week of activities such as taking a walk, attending a fitness class, swimming, or jogging in the park can be really helpful for not only your physical health and mental health, because these activities actually reduce muscle tension, relieve stress, improve blood flow, and release good feel-good chemicals such as endorphins that help both your physical and mental health. And finally, sleep. 6 to 8 hours of sleep protected every night is essential with improving your mental health as well as physical health. That amount of sleep allows your brain to do all the things it needs to do to organize your feelings, your functions, your activities for the day, so that the next day you can wake up feeling restored and have more focus with decision making and be able to participate in your social activities, which are all really important to both physical and mental health and wellness. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to turn back to Zamina, who I think has some more questions that I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, I thought we could just dig a little bit deeper in some of the content that you just shared. I know you talked about sleep and recognizing that from yourself or others, but I'm just curious about what are some signs that can show up in our physical health that may indicate we're feeling low or disconnected?
That's a really good question, Zanina. And this goes back to sort of being mindful about when you're finding that you are feeling fatigued or not sleeping well, or sometimes you find that you're having changes in your emotions. So you're finding that you're a bit more sad every day rather than being happy every day. If you're noticing that you're not participating in activities that you enjoy, such as not attending family dinners or not attending activities such as going to the movies with friends, those kinds of activities, that lack of doing those activities or those signs or symptoms may suggest that you might not be feeling physically well, or you might be finding that you're feeling disconnected or having a lower mental health. And that might be something that you may want to speak to either a professional about, or you may want to engage a friend with. It's really important also to keep an eye out for if you're noticing that you're feeling so unwell or so fatigued or so sad that you're having any thoughts about hurting yourself or hurting anybody else. In those cases, it's really important to seek urgent care, urgent health care, because it's important that when you're not feeling safe, that you're in a safe space, that you can have accesses to resources to the point where you start to feel safe again.
Thanks for that note. I think it's really important for us to check in on ourselves, check in on our friends and our family, and knowing that your body is speaking a language to you. So really understanding what those signs could be. You talked a little bit about these strategies about you sleep and sometimes I think I'm like, oh, I need to get into like some exercises, 30 minutes of exercise. So wondering if you could just maybe help us think about some foundations of physical health and can help prioritize so we can feel our best and how we can build those healthy habits.
I love this question. So one of the things that we do know is that it takes about 21 days to make a good habit, also 21 days to break a bad habit. And the best way to go about perhaps laying some healthy foundations for good health, both physical and mental health, is to think about setting a 21-day goal and thinking about what you'd like to accomplish. So for example, I might say today I exercise once a week, but perhaps by the end of the next 21 days, I want to get that up to 3 times a week. And some best tips that I can share is certainly encouraging to have a friend or a buddy join you in this process. It's great to have an accountability partner. And what I often do is I say, take a photo of your sneakers on the treadmill or on the pathway as you make your way to exercise. And that lets your friend join in on the fun as well too, but also helps to spread that good health and well-being habits. So I encourage you to think about setting a 21-day goal and encouraging a partner to join you in that effort.
I love that strategy. My mom every week sends me a photo when she goes for a walk, and it gets me so excited and it gets me thinking I need to go for a walk. So having a buddy is really important. Finally, as we think about physical health and we're moving over to talk a little bit more about mental health, like how can caring for your physical health really support your mental health as well?
I think one of the things is that it's really important that when you are taking care of your physical health, and so you are having those routine follow-ups with your primary care provider, you're staying attuned to how your body is doing. So are you finding that you're sleeping well? Are you finding that you are, how your mood is? And often we don't ask ourselves, how am I feeling today? And I often say, take a chance, take some time to do that. Every morning when you wake up, how do I feel today? And if you're starting to notice that answer is sitting on the lower end of your scale more often than not, then those are good signs to connect with either family, connect with your primary care provider, or connect with a friend who you trust as a way to start to engage and seek support. We know that when we optimize our physical health, when we take care of our, certainly if we have other chronic conditions, if we optimize those, we do a lot better from our mental health perspective. So I often say, and I think we've echoed this as well in our conversation, is listen to your body, but then also have a few touch points in your circle that you can go to if you're noticing that there's some changes that you're concerned about as well.
Great, thanks. And I think that now you've cemented us on our physical health. Maybe we can move over to Ramzia and Elisa to talk us about the importance of mental health and see how they're connected. So I'll hand it over to Ramzia.
Thank you, Zamina and Noor. So I'll be talking about social and cultural effect on mental health. Our cultural and societal backgrounds significantly influence our mental health. They shape how we think about mental health, express, and handle our mental well-being. This in turn affects how we understand, diagnose, treat, and seek help for mental health issues. The second piece is around different culture has different rules for showing emotions. Some encourage open expression, while others favor restraint. Seeking help for mental health can be stigmatized in certain cultures, such as a sign for weakness, failure, or a challenge to one's fate. Gender also plays a significant role in how we address mental health. In some culture, men seeking help may question their masculinity, while women can feel judged for taking care of themselves while doing self-care. Last is the language and awareness. Some cultures lack mental health awareness and vocabulary. Discussing mental health may be tabooed or tied to belief in evil spirits. Personally, growing up in Eastern culture and working with many who have gone through war, displacement, and trauma, I have found that physical symptoms are used to identify mental health issues due to stigma or lack of words. Boundaries and cultures also play a significant role. Setting boundaries may be viewed negatively in some cultures, leading to overcommitment and harm to one's mental well-being. Next slide, please. Addressing social and cultural issues related to mental health is a collaborative effort by individuals, community, and society. But I will only share a few strategies that you can adapt in your everyday life. Learn how culture and society impact mental health. Share this knowledge with others and raise awareness. Speak out against cultural stigma surrounding mental health. Encourage others to seek help. Share personal stories to reduce stigma and promote open mental health conversation to make mental health conversations normal. Create inclusive environments where diversity is respected, challenge stereotypes and biases that hinders mental health support. Last, prioritize your mental health for setting boundaries and allocating time for self-care and activities that maintain your well-being. Next slide, please. There are external factors such as economic instability and housing insecurities that have significantly impacted mental health. Post-pandemic, we have witnessed that many of our community members are impacted by this. We're here to support Jamaat and our community members getting through these challenging times and ensure their well-being and health. Next slide, please. Okay, I'll pass on to Elisa.
Thanks, Ramzia. So we're going to talk a little bit now about emotions and mental health. When we think about good mental health doesn't mean feeling happy all the time, feeling, at our best all the time. Just like with our physical health, sometimes we have days where we might have a headache or a backache or feel a bit more tired than usual. Our mental health is similar in that we might have moments or days where we feel unhappy, stressed, or maybe really overwhelmed. There are lots of tools and strategies, though, when we are feeling low or anxious that we can use to help improve and maintain our mental well-being. When you do find, though, that you're feeling unhappy, stressed, overwhelmed, or anxious more days than not, maybe you find yourself withdrawing from family or friends or losing interest in activities you used to enjoy, these are definitely signs that you might need some support with your mental health. Next slide, please. So we've got a little mental health meter up on the slide here. So these are a few statements that you can take a look at and use as a bit of a check-in on your mental health. If you've answered no to any of these, it might be a good prompt to explore further and maybe seek out some tools or resources or speak to someone about getting some support for your mental health. There's lots of healthy outlets too that we can use to really support our mental health. And I think one of the important things to highlight is healthy outlets are things to do not just when we're feeling down, but also to continue to do when we're feeling well, so that we have these, we can also work to maintain our mental health. So some things that are healthy ways of focusing on our mental health might include journaling, community connections, whether that be family, friends, work. Your faith and your spirituality is another healthy outlet. Creative expression. It doesn't mean we need to be an artist or a musician, but if you enjoy any of those activities, those can be really, really great for really working on our mental health and supporting it. And hobbies are really important too. So something that you really enjoy doing is another way that you can really support your mental health. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about healthy thinking. Healthy thinking is another really important aspect of supporting our mental health. Healthy thinking is thinking about something in a balanced way. So really looking at a situation or a problem for what it really is. Having good mental health doesn't mean that we'll only ever have happy thoughts. Sad and upsetting things are a part of life, and problems are a part of life. So healthy thinking really means looking at a situation for what it is and really being able to look at it from all different angles. Practicing healthier and more balanced thinking can really help you respond to life events and ups and downs, and it can also improve your confidence and self-esteem. Next slide, please. There's lots of evidence-based, strategies that are backed up by a lot of research that you can learn and that you can use to support healthy thinking and to cope better with life stressors and anxieties. One of the things that I'm going to speak to a little bit more when I talk about the Bounce Back program is cognitive behavioral therapy. So this is an evidence-based tool that we can use to really support healthy thinking. I'll give you a little bit example of what cognitive behavioral therapy is, and an example of healthy thinking. So let's say, for example, you're walking through the park, and as you're walking through the park, a friend walks by, but they don't acknowledge you. What are some of the thoughts we might have? We might think that our friend doesn't like us, or maybe they're upset with us. Or what if our friend is having a really tough day, and they just miss seeing us because they were preoccupied with something else they were thinking about? So that first thought might lead you to feel upset or angry, but that second thought might lead you to feel concerned for your friend and maybe give them a call after or a text to check in on them. So this is an example of how our really looking at a situation and thinking it through can really impact how we're feeling and can also impact our behaviors. Another little tip I will talk about is just another example of something really simple, a simple tool or a skill that you can take with you anywhere that can help you when you're feeling maybe anxious or overwhelmed. Is box breathing. So some of you may have heard of it. Sometimes it's called square breathing. It's a tool that you can use to really help calm your mind and your body, and can help you refocus even, at a point in the day when you're feeling really busy or stressful. We know that when we're feeling worried, anxious, or stressed, our breathing can change. It might become more quick and shallow, and that can definitely impact how we're feeling physically. And box breathing is a tool that you can take with you and use wherever you are. So I'll just walk us through it quickly. What you do is you start off by breathing in. So first of all, make sure actually that you're sitting comfortably, that your feet are on the floor and you've got some support for your back. And then you can, if you'd like to, you can put your hand on your stomach and your chest and breathe in slowly, counting to 4, and feeling the air enter your lungs. Then you can hold your breath for 4 seconds, and try to avoid inhaling or exhaling. If 4 seconds feels like a little bit much for you, you can always start with 1 or 2 seconds. And then exhale slowly through your mouth for 4 seconds. You can repeat this for a few rounds until you're feeling a bit more relaxed and centered. So this is just another really quick tool that you can use, and just one example of many that are out there of tools that you can really support your mental health on a day-to-day basis. Next slide, please. We want to go back one. There we are, yeah. So improving and maintaining your mental health. You can leverage these mental health skills and use them as preventative practices to maintain your well-being, like not just when you're feeling down, but also when you're feeling good, so that you have some practice with using them. And tools like this can really help build up our resilience and deal with the day-to-day challenges of life. CMHA offers various programs that can support you with building your mental health skills. And so one of the programs I'm really going to highlight today is our Bounce Back program. So Bounce Back, it's a free program. It's available across Canada that can help you build some tools around mental health. And as I mentioned earlier, the program is mainly based on cognitive behavioral therapy. There's no wait list for accessing the program. Once you submit a referral, you can usually access the program within about 2 weeks. The program is designed to support people age 13 plus to manage low mood, mild to moderate depression, anxiety, stress, or worry. And we have a variety of different delivery methods, which I'll speak to. Next slide, please. So we've got 3 program options. Our first is our Bounce Back coaching. So with the Bounce Back coaching program, you get to work one-on-one with a trained Bounce Back coach who will really work with you to help you learn skills to improve your mental health. They'll guide you through a series of program materials and really be there to support you to problem solve or, have a little bit of accountability as you're working through the program materials. So to access the Bounce Back coaching, you do need a referral from a primary care provider, or you can also self-refer and provide the contact information for your primary care provider. We also have our online program. So this is a program that you can complete completely independently if that's your preferred method of learning, or you just want to check out the Bounce Back program materials. No referral is needed for our online program. You can just visit our site and register and start accessing the materials. And we also have a series of videos. So the videos are really great if you're just looking for some quick and practical tips on how you can manage your mental well-being and practice CBT skills. And those are also accessible through our Bounce Back website. So who is Bounce Back for? One of the things I really wanted to emphasize is that you don't need a diagnosis of depression or anxiety to access Bounce Back. If you're feeling like you've got some low mood, maybe you're noticing that you've lost motivation or energy, you may be having some of the physical symptoms that Dr. Ramji spoke to, like changing in your sleep or your appetite. If you just find that you've been feeling down or sad more than usual, Bounce Back might be a great fit for you. We also it's a good fit for those of us, which is many of us, who are maybe experiencing worry, stress, or anxiety. You might find that you're having some trouble relaxing or continuously feeling nervous or on edge or having a lot of uncontrolled worry. If you are experiencing any of these symptoms, then Bounce Back might also be a great fit for you.
Thanks, Lisa. I just did that box breathing and automatically I felt better. I think it's so important for us to take moments throughout the day to really check in with our breath, because sometimes we don't even recognize that we're breathing faster, and it's so good to really check in with your nervous system. I just want to go back in the beginning. You really talked about good mental health, and so I just want to ask, just really clarify for the audience members, like, what does it mean to have good mental health, and is there any such thing as bad mental health?
Great question. Thanks, Amina. So good mental health is really being able to do the things that you like to do every day and being able to meet the commitments that you have and feeling like you're able to cope with day-to-day life. And so, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes we have good days and sometimes we have bad days, and that's okay. But if you are finding that you're having many more bad days than good days, or you're finding it really hard to cope with your day-to-day responsibilities, or you're losing interest in things that used to bring you a lot of joy, those are some key signs that your mental health might be declining, and just a little bit of a push to go and seek some additional supports or help, or talk to somebody about it.
Thanks, Lisa. And you talked in the very beginning, you talked about the difference between mental health and mental illness. And I understand Bounce Back being a really good program to really get you bounce back on your mental health. Can you just express that difference once more time for everyone, of the difference between mental health versus mental illness?
Absolutely. Yeah. So mental health and mental illness are often used interchangeably, but it is important to note that they are not the same. So mental health is always there. We all have mental health, and it might be positive or it might be negative. Mental illness often affects your ability to really function over a long period of time. So that's when, you're noticing sort of longer term symptoms that are really building up. That's really sort of that warning sign that you want to check in with your primary healthcare provider or another healthcare provider that you have. It's also important to note that someone without a mental illness can have poor mental health, just like a person that's living with mental illness can experience positive mental health. So just because you have a mental illness, it doesn't mean that you cannot have good or positive mental health. Mental illness often happens in cycles, and there's lots of effective treatments that are and recovery processes that are available. And so when you're going through treatment, you can get the tools that you need to support your mental health, and that can often help you prevent a relapse or help you stay well longer.
Thanks, Lisa. I think it's so important for us to note the difference and to really understand that there is help out there. So the free program you talked about, Bounce Back, talking to your practitioner, there's so many resources that I can't wait to get to at the end to leave people with. My next question to you, Lisa, is that what might be signs that you need extra support with your mental health?
Absolutely. So definitely the physical signs that Dr. Ramji spoke to, those are important. So there's the physical signs that you might be experiencing. You might also find changes in your emotions. So maybe you're feeling that you're getting upset quite easily or crying more often when that's not something that you would, maybe do every day. Or if a big one is definitely losing interest in things that you used to enjoy. Maybe if you find yourself isolating from family or friends or those you care about, that can be another sign. And also if you are, as Dr. Ramji mentioned, just it's really important to highlight, if you are having any thoughts about harming yourself or harming your others, that's definitely a sign to really get urgent care immediately.
Thanks, Elisa. And Dr. Ramji, I'm very curious because I think to myself when I'm thinking about outlets, I'm thinking which ones are healthy, which ones are unhealthy, when does it actually become unhealthy? So just wondering if you can just shed some light on what are some healthy outlets and not so healthy outlets when we're thinking about mental health.
I think that's a really important question, Zamina, especially because I think over the last 3 years, we may have found that we didn't have as much access to our healthy outlets for our maintaining our mental health. I think, specifically, it may have been a little bit easier during these last 3 years to look to some of the not so healthy outlets, such as having the extra chocolate or the extra high carbohydrate containing foods that are sugary, that are great for the short term, but not so great in the long term, especially if you have other chronic diseases. Certainly things like nicotine, so cigarette smoking, alcohol, or marijuana, which may have been more accessible to us during the pandemic or these last 3 years, as ways to sort of calm down feelings of being low or feelings of anxiety, may have helped in the moment and may have been turned to in the moment, or we may have noticed that some may have used a little bit more than they typically do in the past to help cope with the stressors. But we know, unfortunately, that in the long run, those kinds of outlets are not as healthy for us and have longer term consequences with respect to your health and physical health. And then that creates this whole cycle that then impacts your mental health and well-being as well. But switching over to healthy outlets, certainly we've got some bright lights coming forward now that we're coming out of the pandemic, and actually having those opportunities to engage with community, engage with family, being able to visit your local Jamaat Khana or community centers, your gym again, to be able to have those do those activities such as exercise and having those personal connections and partnerships. Those are healthy outlets for maintaining good mental health. And so certainly if you are noticing that, that when I rank my mood on a scale of 1 to 5 today and I'm not feeling so well, maybe this is the day that I'll go and visit a friend, or I'll go to the gym, or I'll go and perhaps go to the local Jamaat Khana and have some time in prayer, because we know those kinds of activities can certainly be helpful in the moment and can certainly contribute to better physical as well as mental health over time. So if we continue to engage in those.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I hope that if we're all listening to this, I know if Dr. Ramji and Elisa's words are really resonating with me, that today, by the end of the day, I'm going to make sure that I do something that's a healthy outlet so that I'm really focusing on my mental health. And I really appreciate that you brought up the topic of community, because I want to pass it over to Ramzi to talk a little bit more about community connection, because I think that is so integral and so important. And I feel so fortunate to be part of a community that I know that I can be connected to. So over to you, Ramzi.
Thank you very much. So community connection was brought a couple times, as it was mentioned by Elisa, and know that community connection plays a significant role in our mental health and maintaining our mental well-being. A sense of connection to something greater than oneself provides a profound sense of purpose. Being part of a community gives individuals a feeling of acceptance and inclusion. This sense of belonging significantly boosts one's self-esteem and overall happiness. Community acts as a vital support system during challenging time by providing a network of individuals who can offer advice, comfort, and resources to help navigate difficulties. Many communities engage in group activities, whether creating a sports team, exercise, dance classes, or walking in the park post prayers, which many of our Jamaat Khanas had these activities through health board. These activities not only foster strong social bonds and improve mental health, but also contributes to physical well-being. It's a wonderful way to connect with others, stay active, and improve overall quality of life. Next slide, please. Different people in your support network can help you in different ways. While one can help you with your personal and professional growth, others might be able to help meet your emotional and psychological needs. Healthy relationship with family, friends, and coworkers are vital to our mental health, as Elisa mentioned earlier. Loved ones can help you get through hard times, build your self-confidence, remind you that you're loved and cherished. And colleagues might provide a sense of achievement and support your career growth. Healthy thinking can strengthen our interactions with others and foster meaningful connections. Next slide, please. You can form community bonds and connection by attending social events, volunteering, or joining groups that aligns with your interests, such as a book club, hiking groups, etc. Events like Smiley Civic, global encounters, and cultural celebrations like Khoshali, Eid, Nowruz are great ways to make new friends, stay connected with old ones, and celebrate our beautiful cultures and traditions. Volunteering or seva is an integral part of community lives, providing opportunities to connect with like-minded individuals. Our program's most successful significant factor is volunteer engagement. In our program in FRI, we have about 26 staff and 500 plus volunteers, and we are very proud of that. Back to Zamina.
Thanks, Ramzia. I'm going to ask Dr. Ramji and Elisa to come back online because I think now is when we get into some resources. So I recognize that this presentation is across Canada, and so you might be in BC, you might be in Alberta, and there's so many resources out there. So what we tried to put together just a quick list of things that would be relevant to you as a Canadian, and I'm sure in your province or your local community area there are more resources. So maybe we'll start with Dr. Ramji to talk about some physical resources, and then we'll move over to Elisa.
Thanks so much, Damina. So certainly I spoke about eat, sleep, and exercise as big strategies to help with physical well-being that really impact good mental health. And so definitely some resources that are available are food guides. So there is certainly the overall Branching Canada food guide, but that might not be as specific to our diet. And so there are a few other websites, such as the Healthy Bowl food guide and also the First Nations Health Authority Healthy Food Guidelines. And all of these websites will share what are the appropriate number of vegetables do I need to eat every day, or how many lean meats should I have per day, so that I do meet my vitamin requirements, and that can help with optimization of your gut health as well as your physical well-being too. Participaction is a really great website. It's family friendly, and it allows you to actually look up exercise programs or give you ideas. So if you're getting bored with running on the treadmill, this might be a really great way for you to find some new activities, and perhaps you and your buddy can pick a few to work on together. And then finally, a really interesting new program that's come out, it's called Parks. And it is an initiative that is a collaboration between the provincial parks, as well as physicians and family physicians across the country and nurse practitioners, who are joining forces to help share the word that 20 minutes in nature every day can actually be quite helpful for your physical and mental health. And we want to optimize your access to those parks. So what you can actually do is you can head over to your primary care provider and you can share your interest in the parks program. And what you can get is a prescription that will allow you to get access or entry to some of our great national parks across the country and have a day of immersion in some nature, which is actually quite restorative. So these are just a few supportive resources that speak to the strategies that I spoke of earlier.
Thanks. And Elisa, I know you talked a little bit about Bounce Back. I'm wondering if you can just share that again. And I think it's really good for people to hear what's available for them across Canada.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Bounce Back is available across Canada. You can go to CMHA.ca /bounce back to learn about how you can access the program for wherever you are in Canada. And then Living Life to the Full is another course that's available nationally that's delivered by CMHA, various CMHAs across Canada. It's a mental health promotion course, an 8-week course that you can do in person or virtually. So again, you can go to our Living Life to the Full site to learn about where it might be available, whether in person or online in your community. Mental Health First Aid. So that is a resource that's offered by Mental Health Commission of Canada. And it's basically just like when you think about how we have physical first aid for physical emergencies, you can think about mental health first aid as the equivalent. And so you can take a mental health first aid course to learn about how to support people who are experiencing mental health challenges or maybe in a mental health crisis. And again, you can visit their site to learn more about the courses they offer, and you can check their schedule and learn how to register there. Another tool is psychoeducation sessions. So again, these could be offered through various CMHAs or through other types of nonprofits or community organizations. So psychoeducation refers to learning about information about mental health. So that can include handouts, activities, homework exercises that you can do, and often psychoeducation is also incorporated into therapy. And that leads me to professional help. So that might be, accessing a counselor or talking to your primary care provider or about getting a referral to a psychiatrist if they think that if that might be the right fit. Oftentimes sometimes again, there's a cost barrier around professional help. In that case, you might want to reach out to your local CMHA to learn about maybe some other low cost or no cost resources that are available. Or you can also, through your employer, check about coverage for professional help. Hotlines and crisis helplines are another resource. If you are in an emergency or you're with someone who's having a mental health emergency, you can reach out to a crisis helpline. Crisis helplines are also available, even if you're not in immediate emergency, but you're trying to support someone that you're really worried about. That's another great resource. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Ramji to speak about the Access Line now.
Thank you so much, Elise. And certainly those are a lot of resources we've shared with you. And it might be challenging to think about how do I go, where do I go to, and the Access Line is a Jamathi-based service that can be helpful for you to learn about what could be the best fit for you. You can connect with the Access Line through their online form on iicanada.org, or you can call 1-888-536-3599, and you can actually speak to an Access Intake volunteer, and they have a few hours Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays where they have a live agent that you can speak to. And I would recommend asking to speak with the Health Navigation Service or the Future Ready Initiative as a way to get connected and also get the support that you might need with understanding how best to navigate to some of these resources as well. Additionally, for our Jamathi members that are in BC, should you be interested in participating with the Bounce Back BC program, going through the Health Navigation Service in BC can be a way to link up with that program as well.
Okay, thank you. Before I talk about some of the supportive resources and community connection, I just wanted to add that mental health first aid is also offered by Arhan Health Board Canada, throughout the year, multiple times a year. It's open for our volunteers, for institutional leadership, but it's also open for the community members. So if anybody's interested, just watch out for those announcements and in your Jamaat Khanas and or Al-Akhbar as well. And beside that, Alisa spoke about, seeking help for psychotherapy and professional help. There are people who have insurance benefit. It's wonderful to access, but for those who do not have access, we do have subsidized psychotherapy that we have through our Khan Health Board for Canada, as well as the Future Ready initiative that Jamaat member can access to. So just to build on that. Community resources, there are different ways that you can explore. You can explore through your local organizations like libraries, community centers, school, CMHA branches, and nonprofit organizations for any events or volunteer opportunities. You can subscribe to Al-Akhbar newsletter if you have not done yet, and check II Canada for any upcoming community events. You can also reach out to your local Jamaat Khana and Ismaili volunteer leadership, Future Ready initiative, local council members, board and portfolio members for guidance on community or Jamaat Khana initiatives and involvement to volunteer as well. Back to you, Zamina.
Thanks, Ramzia. So I'm inviting everyone to submit their questions. I have a few questions here that I'm going to post to the panel. And I just want to say, so far, I'm feeling quite intrigued by all the resources and strategies. It's also a really good reminder for me. I know I work in the mental health space, but sometimes I forget the box breathing. I forget the exercise. So it's really nice to have these conversations and bring that dialogue ahead. So I encourage you to ask your questions. We have around 10 minutes left, and so we do have some questions submitted. So I'm going to start with Dr. Ramji. Dr. Ramji, you talked about the importance of sleep. And so I have a question from the audience just talking about napping. Napping 20 minutes, does that replace sleeping? How long should you be sleeping? Is there too much sleeping? Is there too little? You can just dive deep a little bit about this sleep patterns and how that impacts your mental and physical health.
Certainly. And unfortunately, I hate to break it to us, but we actually don't have any data to say that we can bank our sleep. So unfortunately, catching 20 minutes of napping won't contribute to your overnight sleep. And the reason is because when we go to sleep for a long chunk of time, we enter through different cycles of sleep. And it's important that your brain goes through those cycles in order to do its organizational work so that you feel restored and refreshed. So the 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night, as much as you can protect that, that's sort of the best way for it to impact your physical and mental health. However, there is some evidence around napping and how napping can be restorative. It's important that it's less than 40 minutes a day and probably no later than 3 hours before you're actually going to sleep, because then it can start to impact your sleep at night. One interesting fact is that Einstein used to nap for about 10 minutes 2 or 3 times a day. And so we can see how he contributed to society. So I think that napping is something that could be a restorative activity for you, but it just has to be done in a mindful way and can be helpful.
Thanks, Dr. Ramji. I did not know that about Einstein. I think I'm going to start napping. I'll have to figure out what my napping schedule is, but if Einstein did it, I feel like I should probably practice it as well. So I appreciate that. My next question is going to be start with Elisa, and I think this is a really important question, given that we have so many family and friends and community members that we might witness and see that their mental health they might be struggling a little with their mental health, or you might be concerned with a friend, or you're observing something. How do you start that conversation? What do you do when you feel that someone in your network or someone you're observing is suffering or having a challenge? Elisa, I thought maybe you could start, and then Dr. Ramzia, feel free to add to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that can be a really challenging and tricky situation to be in. I think the first thing that we want to remember is that we don't want to make assumptions or sort of lead to, based on what we're seeing, sort of assume a diagnosis. It's really important that we leave that with a mental health professional. And it's also really important to sort of look at what we're observing versus what the other person might feel is the cause of what they're feeling or going through. So not making assumptions is really important. You might want to start off by just having a conversation with that person, so you can talk a little bit about the fact that you are worried about them and maybe share a little bit about what you're seeing, and give them a chance. They might want to open up or they might not. They might want to share a little bit about what the experience has actually been for them, or what they think might be going on. Depending on, if the person that you're wanting to support is an adult, adults do have to be, actively involved in their treatment, except in very rare circumstances. So there does need to be a willingness from that person to go and seek help. But maybe you could look at what you could do to support that person. Maybe it's offering to accompany them to an appointment, or sharing some resources with them, or just being there to listen. Or maybe of someone else, maybe there's someone else in their life that they're really close with that is also is also observing or seeing what you're seeing, and maybe hearing from someone that they're really close to might be helpful too. So those are some different ways that you might want to approach it. And particularly if this is someone that you're really, really close to, it can be really hard for yourself to watch someone go through a situation like that. So taking care of yourself, your own self-care, and seeking out some support for yourself is also really important. But I'll turn it over to Dr. Ramji if there's anything you wanted to add to that.
No, I think, Elise, you hit on really the really important parts of not making assumptions, being patient, and I think being present as well. And certainly that's the one thing I often share with colleagues, parents, family members, is that one thing is that being there for the person. So not I think being present and sort of offering that opportunity to, I'm here. That in itself, and I'm here and I'm listening, that in itself can be helpful to a person, so that they feel safe and that they can share more should they be ready and willing. And when they are ready, then they know that you're there. So it might not be right now. It might need to be in a bit of time when they start to feel safe. But once they're ready, if you're always present and you're always there and willing to listen, I think that's going to put you in a really good place to help when the time comes.
Yeah, and I think I want to go back and add to the point beside, what you mentioned in terms of not making judgment, because this could also be coming from a place of lack of awareness, lack of terminologies that I said earlier. A lot of time it's really important to be aware, because, for me personally, a lot of time when I have interaction with those individuals who do not understand that this is a mental health concern, I try to explain them, like explaining about physical symptoms and connecting that to the overall their mental well-being and how this impact their everyday life. So I think then it's also, how were we approaching from a place of non-judgmental and more in a more compassionate way, and being there for them.
Compassion, being present, the power of listening can go so far. I'm not seeing any more questions. The presentation is recorded and the slides will be shared, but I thought to end this mental health, physical health presentation, I would just go around to our panelists and just hear from you. Like, what do you do for your physical and mental health? I'm just curious. I'm going to start doing the box breathing again, and maybe we'll start with Ramzia and then go to Dr. Noor and then Elisa. What do you do for your physical and mental health?
I think this is a great question. I consider this a journey. I think we're all at different phases of our life when it comes to taking care of our well-being. I think I have great circle of support, through work, to friends, family. So I think my happy places is mainly my family and friends. I have nieces and nephews that I go to. Spirituality plays a significant role for me, like, meditation and personal prayers. Those moments are really important for me. I think it's really important to be mindful. Like when I feel really stressed, I have learned this like lately that I take those 5 moments. It could be a minute, it could be 5 minutes where I can do deep breathing, intentional deep breathing, and mindfulness about those stressors that could really stress my body, and I can feel the tension in my neck muscle usually. So I think just being mindful and doing those exercises. I love self-care. So again, a lot of like personal care. It could be a spa day or it could be just a dinner with friends. I think those are some of the things that I do and has really helped me. But I'm just mindful. I think I'm learning every day. Yeah, those are some of the things I can share.
I love those things, Ranthia, and certainly echo a few of them. Definitely, I spoke a little bit earlier about setting 21-day goals, and I did this for myself this last year where I learned about that piece of evidence about being in nature. So in my agenda, I put down a tracking of have I spent an hour in nature? And what's really interesting is that I've started to do that over this last year, and every week at least had one nature activity and learned about the beaches at Scarborough Bluffs and how you can actually catch a beautiful sunrise. So highly recommended if somebody's going to morning prayers and you wanted to catch a beautiful sunrise, feel free to head over to Scarborough Bluffs beaches and you get a great way to start your day. And I think that's really helped me over these last few months and years actually, is having that time in nature. So that's been really restorative. And then I can't lie, there's been a few gelato runs as well that help for my mental health too. Elise, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, those are all great. Just, while I'm reflecting right now, I'm thinking about, what I try to do for myself is try to make things a priority. And I find that in your day-to-day, when you're so busy, those things that, make you feel better, like getting in your exercise or your walk or talking with a friend are kind of oftentimes, sadly, the first things to go from our day-to-day when we're so overwhelmed. And so I often think about, when you're on an airplane, they say, put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. I try to remind myself, I need to take care of myself and prioritize myself so that I can take care of the people around me. So I try to prioritize the exercise and, taking that time to do a little bit of healthy meal prep for the week, because I know those are the things that are going to help me be able to feel my best every day. So that's something that I definitely try to do is just make it a priority and remind myself that, that's what I need to be able to do to support those around me as well.
I love these tips. I hope that you're all walking away with something that you can do as a strategy or a resource. Just to summarize the next slide, we really are so grateful for your attendance and for you watching this if you're watching over the recording, because it's really important to remember that cultivating healthy habits and connecting with community and building mental health strategies, these are all part of that cycle of building a healthy maintenance for yourself. And once you start doing that for yourself, you're in a better position to start helping others and recognizing when others in your community or your family, friends might need that support from you and might need those strategies. Maybe you'll share that gelato tip, or you'll share that calling a friend tip, which is really helpful. Next slide. So physical health, mental health, and connection to the community are all interrelated and part of your well-being. And it's so important. If there's anything you can take away from today, is to really take the time to recognize what your body's saying to you, what your mind's saying to you, and reach out for help whenever you need it. There are free resources out there. So the last slide is just putting all those resources together for you to see. Some of the resources that Dr. Ramji brought forward, Elisa and Ramzia, are here for you to have a look at. And like I said, if you're nationwide, there's a bounce back program. It is free and accessible for everyone across Canada. If there's more elevated support that you need, see your physician, see a mental health professional. Just know that there is support out there to really help you with your well-being. So I want to extend my gratitude to the lovely panelists, Ramzia, Dr. Ramji, and Elisa, for joining us today and sharing their knowledge and tidbits. Over here, I have some links on social media and websites if you want to continue this conversation and this dialogue. And I just want to send my gratitude for all the participants, either watching the recording or watching this live. Really appreciate your presence and your time in learning about this subject matter. Have yourself a wonderful day and week.